looking at words, trying to make them make sense.
Trying to make sense, trying to find the metaphor.
He will, like, by the end of this show, G will summarise this show, and he'll use different words. And if you listen carefully... Did you just sniff then? That's very bad etiquette. That's bad etiquette. Thank God we've got an etiquette expert coming on. That's the... Thank God we've got one coming.
Thank God we can say it.
Expert.
Expert.
I got extra rosy sex pots.
When you came out having a mum-call. You told us you had an uncle, but you called him a mum-call.
Mum-call?
Yeah,
that's
it's a new
weird.
family member, sort of breastfeeding brother.
It's the mum. Hello, mum-call. Hello, it's me, your mum-call. I'll be looking after you now. I don't like my mum-call.
Come on, give me this email.
You started saying the mum-call thing, and if you ask me, I always say ask, that's choppy waters. Choppy. This is us doing our best to be on Radio X. This is us doing our best to be on Radio X. You're listening
driving
to Radio X.
around, doing things,
Living
in their
their
kitchen,
lives.
cooking dinner, and this is on.
I hope you're... Look, we love
Pull
you.
your socks up!
Actually, do you know what type of socks I'm wearing? Those ones that are like the bottom of ladies' tights.
Those little...
Like ladies'
slipkins. Those little mouse sleeping bags. Oh, look at that!
I call them either paunces or gaylords sometimes.
What are they, why are they so discoloured?
What do you mean discoloured? That is the colour. You don't know the original colour.
It looks
you're not Plato. You don't know the original form of all
They
things.
look like white
the
socks
essential.
that you've done that thing that if you're making a treasure map with a tea bag. That's what the colour they've
Age
got.
it with a tea bag. And now on Blue Peter, that thing again, where we ate a treasure map with a tea bag. Just do Tracy Island, will you?
And roll it up and burn the edges.
You can't burn the edges if you're a child watching Blue Peter. Just do the tea bag. Bit of tea bagging, that's fine on Blue Peter. But if you start burning them edges, that's when you're in trouble. Stick with the tea bagging. That's my advice to you. All right, so this is from Scott G. Listen to your hilarious podcast, thank you. The podcast will be available. And remember, if you can answer... Oh, no, what was that thing? I asked the question a minute ago.
Never happened in my kingdom again.
What film's that from? If you send it to 83936 with Rebirth in capital letters, we'll give you 2 tickets to see me performing stand-up comedy. And let me tell you now, it's ever so funny.
Do the impression of the, do the line.
This will never happen in my kingdom again.
Right, that's it.
Tell me what film that's from. And if you know, then you can come see me.
It's actually a good competition, finally.
Yeah, the best one.
From now on, it's good competitions. Ever since we've had this resurgent sense of buoyancy, even if there is still a Conservative majority with their new alliance with DUP, there's still, you can't take away this sense of buoyancy. This sense of buoyancy.
Right, read this email. You've
Expert.
started it about 4 times.
Hello, Scott G here. Russell, I'd just like to say everything you've done or ever said is brilliant. In striking contrast with Matt Morgan, a man who clearly belongs in the penitentiary and on one of the wings where they're not allowed yard time with the other prisoners. Yours, with the deepest respect, making it up as I go along. Now, after listening to your hilarious podcast, I wanted to chip in on the best man speech. Here's an idea for you. I'm getting married on the 24th of June, and I've allowed all my friends to perform a comedy roast on me, cheeky, in lieu of a best man speech. It's going to make me laugh until I expel white tummy worms. That's an interesting notion. I'm sure all your friends, including Matt and G, would happily partake in this. A roast. Roasty.
You'd have to sit there on a little chair.
You know how sensitive I am.
No, this would never work.
It won't happen.
You'd storm out after the second person. Right, no! Everyone go home!
No, I didn't enjoy the film Arthur. Right, everyone get out! Okay, now, you might not know this, but radio stations require money. So when you're old enough to run your own radio station that's state-funded, then you can do that. But until then, here's an advert. We've done everything we can to help. I don't know much about workplace pensions, but I'll tell you now not to worry about it. No, you don't. You do need to worry about it. 'Cause that's
You haven't got a pension, have you?
You're right. Do I need a pension?
Everyone's meant to. I've got one.
You got a pension? I ain't got a pension.
Oh,
I went to
no,
the bank about, I don't know, 20 years ago, and he said, you need a pension. I said, all right. And so I just got set up then.
Well done, mate. You jumped all over it. There you are, Matt Morgan there, one of the key figures in counterculture. You won't believe it, when I'm on the road doing my tour, I've got a bunch of Freddy the Frogs for our man G here.
God.
A whole bag of them, mate.
What,
all
on the
gift
rider?
packs. No, someone
someone gave them to him.
goes, give these to G. And I was hungry, and I sat in the car, and I didn't eat one.
You didn't eat one?
Not one.
I really thought you were going to eat them because you were talking to each other.
I wanted them. I wanted them. But all I had was these chocolate raisins, right? And then I ate them, and they were bloody vegan chocolate. And veganism is right, and we should all be vegans. God.
But
oh
Freddos.
man, those Freddos, and I was eating those raisins, and I was looking at those Freddos. I was thinking, I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do to not eat your friend's present. It is, isn't it?
Well, how many of them was there?
9.
Oh,
How many of them are there now?
None. No, they're all still in a little gift bag of Freddos. Thank you, the person that did that.
thank
for
you.
G.
Good etiquette you had there.
Hey, the man, we know we were meant to have a good etiquette person on called William, what's his name? Kinkykins. Knobsnot.
Hanson.
Twinkle. William Hanson.
Mbop.
I like
he's
that
an
song.
So did I. Why not? He's an expert in etiquette. He ain't answered the bleeding phone.
Answer him some
Ah.
What's wrong with you, Hanson?
Where does he get off?
Hanson, where'd you get off, Hanson? Right, now I think we're going to let our manners and etiquette plummet into the absolute depths, into the dirge, into some sort of Dante-esque ninth circle, circles beneath circles. One of my shows, right, a person put the thing they were most ashamed of, Matt, was when they were a younger man, say adolescent, they thought that the band Hanson was all girls.
That's what I thought.
So
One
did
of
I,
them, the pretty
main one.
lead
He was
singer.
gorgeous.
Still say he's pretty.
He's absolutely lovely. He's still, even to this day, he's gorgeous. Now, of course, we grew up in sort of quite conventional, like 70s, 80s childhoods. So gender fluidity and an amorphous
70s?
sexuality.
You're not that old.
I'm 75 years old today. But like, you know, but then so fancying, as I did, Boy George and Hanson, it's strange, really, that I've not come to the conclusion that I'm obviously homosexual.
Well, everyone else has.
And become open about it. Yeah, no, but like, Boy George, I liked him. Hanson, I'd wised up then to the fact that I was always... There's just certain things on a female anatomy that I feel like I'm biologically drawn to rather than sociologically or psychologically, although perhaps it's impossible to draw those distinctions.
When's
Perhaps
that shrink coming?
Oh, please, Emma Kenny, get here. I just like a lady's mummery glands. Mummery gland me, gland hand me.
Munkle Gary.
My munkle came
Well,
round.
this is sounding like absolute madness.
No, it isn't.
And drivel.
I
This is what
think-
we're sometimes accused of.
Drivel.
Yes.
Who accuses us?
I read a brilliant tweet once that said Russell and his bum chums just talking drivel, and then I can't remember.
That's
I'll
very
find it.
hurtful.
It was absolutely
That's
poetic in its
hurtful.
hatred.
I'm trying my hardest here, as you can tell, to make a damn good radio broadcast. We're going to be talking to a psychiatrist later. We've already made some interesting and astute political observations, if you're prepared to pick it out of the madness. We've commented on the nature of modern media. Like, we can be sensible if that's what people want, but possibly what we should do is be cohesive and coherent, cogent.
Yes.
Let's do that. All right, let's do those things. Now, what I wanted to comment on then is that, G gets a lot. Well, I mean, people are gifting Freddos for G while I'm out on the road. The Matt Morgan Appreciation Society is like Momentum, the group that's behind Jeremy Corbyn. I think that the Matt Morgan Appreciation Society could whoosh. You want to harness this power, mate, instead of.
I'm starting to think I might get on social media. I've been told
should.
that I'm
Harness
wasting
an opportunity.
opportunities
Come on,
there.
let's get you on it. Isn't hard, is it? Be on Twitter, be on Facebook.
I'm not going on Twitter, but I'll
don't
go on
look at-
Instagram.
All right, you're very artistic, so you could take pictures of your hulks with green winkies, couldn't you?
I'll do my little art things.
Yeah, Matt's a good artist, so we'll go on,
do
set
the
up on
doodles.
Instagram and start doing some art.
All right.
Matt's a very talented artist as well. Let's really get behind this guy, Matt. Hi, Russell, Matt and G, says William Greaves. I love the name Billy Greaves. He's like from the...
It's lovely, isn't it?
Billy Greaves was round asking for you earlier. He wants to go out, he wants to play football.
It's Jimmy Greaves. He's
No,
Jimmy's still with us,
alive.
isn't he? Jimmy's with us.
Yeah, he's
Jimmy
not-
Greaves.
Yeah, he
Jimmy
is.
Greaves,
I think I saw him.
love
I
him.
think he's not well, but he's...
Good old
He's
Greavesy.
not dead.
No, we're mentioning some real antiquated references, of course, because, as you know, I'm a 75-year-old man. I recently took a 10-week course designed by Wim Hof, says Billy Greaves. He took the Wim Hof course. Do you know this man, Wim Hof? He can plunge himself into cold temperatures. Vice did a very good documentary on him. He can plunge himself into the ice, and he also cured himself of some bacterial infection using nothing but his own brain box and sheer willpower. So let's see what this man, Billy Greaves, has got to say. I originally learned about Wim Hof because I kept getting cold cold. Ooh, I wonder if anyone's interested in this. Any little hypochondriacs listening? I kept getting cold and heard that Wim himself could control his own immune system, and he never got ill. Or imagine, because all these systems are in our body, and they are interacting with our consciousness on some level, aren't they? Yeah. So if we could only interject with the conscious...
That's like a thing that runs perfectly.
Don't get involved.
And we're the worst person to get involved. Imagine your body is a company being run very well, right? So your body temperature, your blood sugar level. Imagine you were in charge of your blood sugar level. Look at the way you drove onto Leicester Square.
You're right.
It'd be...
The blood sugar levels.
Rubbish. It'd be like 40 towers.
Right, more blood sugar. Oh, Christ.
Oh, God, down I go again.
Yeah, you're right. And what if I was in charge of dialysis, and if I was in charge of all of the
functions of the body?
Just breathing alone.
I haven't done a poo for 2 months. Oh, God.
Oh, no, what's that? Oh, no, it was like a space opera. Oh, crikey. You're right. No, thank God. Thank whatever omnipotent force conceives of and runs these powerful anatomical machines. Thank it. Anyway, this guy, he learned about it because he did Billy Greaves because he didn't want to get ill no more. And Wim Hof claims he can teach this to anyone. We've got to get this Wim Hof on here, haven't we?
I like the sound of this.
I also like the same sound of Wim Hof, even if all he'd ever done was kicked toddlers off the edge of a cliff. I'd still think he was one of the greats.
On name alone.
On name alone.
Wim Hof.
Yeah.
Wim Hof. Wim Hof. Wim Hof.
Sounds like a Star Trek villain.
Yes, Wim Hof. Yeah, it is villainous, you're right. Like one of those sort of generals that's always
So what does he do then?
Darth Vader. Well, he hasn't had... Anyway, this lad Billy Greaves...
Breathing methods. It's always...
breathing.
Why is it always uncomfortable? Why is it you got to, like, douse yourself in ice cold water? Why can't your immune system be boosted by chilling on the beach?
Because we've become addicted to comfort. We've become prisoners of comfort.
But comfort's good.
Because comfort that's an aspiration, is comfort. Yeah. But the breath is the interface between the material and the... Well, not
you just want everyone to be miserable. You always do this. You always go back to
deny yourself.
Yeah, I must deny everything.
And Freddo frogs.
Yeah.
And now you want to make all of us have
Give
no
me my
fun.
Freddos.
No fun for anyone. Me and Wim Hof say everyone sit perfectly still, turn off your pornography, turn down your wireless, and put your winky between your legs and don't even look at it again. And if you're a lady, just keep those legs together.
It's just you know what you are? It's a spiritual form of austerity.
You are. I'm not. That is called asceticism. And that is a mendicant.
Yeah, that's what you beat yourself with a whip.
All right, look, Matthew was talking about the corporation of the body. Corporeal, that comes from the body. Corporation comes from the body. And he was saying that if I was running my own body, it'd be crazy. But pleasure is there as a function. Pleasure is there to drive progress. Pleasure is there to drive survival and to drive evolution. But we, like big dumb monkeys, are like, I'd like a bit more pleasure, please. Keep downloading too much pleasure. So the life of the mendicant, the life of the ascetic, the life of denial is the recognition that these pleasures serve their function, but if you let the pleasure become your master, then you're doomed. Adam Curtis said to me, we've been taught that freedom is freedom to pursue our petty and trivial desires, but true freedom is freedom from our petty and trivial desires.
But then you could say that denial... The people who seek denial, that's their form of pleasure.
It isn't. It's no, because
pleasure comes from telling everyone else about it.
That's where you get the kick. That's the kicks. No, but if you actually want to change the world, you have to have a different relationship with the idea of sacrifice. And the reason that I find it very, very hard, because if it was up to me, I would lay about in Kubla Khan on a big sea of flesh with an opium pipe in my mouth.
In nature, right? That we've created a situation where you can have anything you want, right?
Good point.
If it was more like basically how things used to be, how we evolved, you would enjoy pleasure because you'd have striven for it, right?
Yeah.
So, like, you can't... I think pleasure would come from, like, hunting and climbing trees and swimming and looking after your babies and, like, doing, like, endeavours that are actually part of survival.
Yes, Matthew.
Once you're just eating Freddo frogs in a van...
Which I was doing just yesterday. Yeah, you're right. Well, Yuval Noah Harari would say, the same thing, that like the advent of agriculture was where we bifurcated from a kind of natural destiny and became and had a domineering destiny. But of course, we are part of nature. We are not abstract and separate from nature. We are indeed nature. Now, if you want to get involved in this sudden high-minded debate, which was a bit of a departure, because 5 seconds ago I was saying my Willie done a burp in the voice of the bloke from Witcher, you can email me at Radio X, or you can tweet me at Rusty Rockets, and do follow me and look at my Facebook page, because that is where you will get the downloads. That is where you'll get the data. You can listen to Under the Skin. You can get you can listen to the podcast for this show.
I need to be promoting myself shamelessly online.
Go for it, baby. You can follow Matt on Instagram called Snivelly Little Winky Woo on Instagram with his stinky little projects. What are you saying? Oh, look at my tweets. Hey, Russ. Noel should Radio X. This person, Amy Haycock, good friend of the show. Hey, Amy, says that Noel should come up with Matt's Instagram handle. Yes, we will ring him. Yes, he will. We will let him. And and then Esther says it's the mad drivel that I love about the show. So there's a lot of very good contributions, but I fancy they're not the contributions that Gareth wanted, because he's come scrambling over here like
ever since we turned his mic down, he's just so
glum. His mic back up, doesn't he? That's what it is.
We're creating a monster.
Him. Do you think so?
Look at him.
We're creating a monster.
Back and laughed then.
He did.
And he's had his teeth whitened.
I haven't. They're white as snow. They're white, so no wonder you're what some people are calling the sexiest producer in Britain. You know, like that Richard Osman, he used to just be a producer, then he just must have one day been glancing across at Jimmy Carr, who he was producing, and gone, I want that power. I want it, and I'm going to take it. And now Richard Osman's on the telly. So why not Gareth Roy? Why should he sit here, whatever his name is, why should he sit here in the shadow of us three twerps, three silly fools? No, we've known each other a long time, us lot, you know. A long time. You lot have seen me do heroin. And that's saying something. Yeah. And some call it the glory days. Ridiculous drug. Ridiculous way to behave. 14 and a half years clean and serene.
Where is the etiquette expert?
Didn't answer the phone.
The rudest man in Britain.
He's the rudest person we've ever had on the show. He's an etiquette expert. It's outrageous, isn't it? He said he couldn't be bothered. He sniffed, he done a greenie and flopped it. You've done a greenie. Right, so what's it say here? Russell looks like a rugby player that's come from a German rave. That's Amy Haycock. She's going to lose her title of friend of the show. Do I look like a rugby player that's come back from a German rave?
The thing is with those sort of T-shirts you wear...
This is a G-Lay.
I know that's designer, but it just looks grubby and looks like a prop from Bottom.
It does not look like a prop from Rick Mail and Aid Edmondson's sitcom Bottom.
Look at it, though.
oh, no. It does not look like a Bottom prop.
It looks train spotting.
You're right. All of my things look like they were once white and they've now gone sort of beige and brown.
Metaphor.
Yeah, that's right. That's why G's out there campaigning hard for UKIP to white it right back up again. Hi, Russ, Matt and G. Last few says Jamie. Last few shows it's come up that Russell and Matt had an argument back in the days when the bad thing happened.
Oh, the bad thing.
Can you please discuss it? Oh, it keeps moving. Can you please discuss what the argument was about that resulted in Matt not being at the show that day? That's bad day. That's Jamie
complex.
From the Matt Morgan Appreciation Society there.
Dark days.
Another member, Dark Days.
The Splinter Group.
Dark days.
When I dropped this bombshell.
Go on.
It wasn't nothing. It wasn't anything really, was it? It was after
I was getting quite egotistical. And you've got your own ego, you know. Everyone's got an ego.
Oh, listen to that. Defensive. I mean, everyone's got an ego. I mean, everyone's got a mansion they won't let their friends stay in. I mean...
You were at the heart of the mansion.
Oh, that's too funny. That's too funny.
That's how it started.
What happened? Did you move...
You wouldn't let me stay in the mansion.
You kicked him out.
Were you being a problem? Oh, really?
Of course I wasn't being a problem. I was quiet as a church mouse. And I lived in the pool house. I was quiet as an inflatable.
Well, what did you... So you had to move out?
Didn't.
What did you do? You must have done something. I don't think you...
I didn't do anything. I broke a swimming pool cover on the Isle of Wight, but that was years before or after.
No,
then.
You must have done something.
I didn't do anything wrong.
Because old Russ is a judicious leader.
This is the funny thing about it. You said, no, we won't get on if we live in the same house. I said, well, you're going to be in London. You said, yeah, I know, but it's the principle of the thing. So...
Well, there you go. Now you know. If you don't know,
I thought that was water under the bridge,
Jamie.
But clearly not.
Well, because I don't remember it that way, because that's how...
how do you remember it?
Yeah, how do you remember it?
Matt came storming in, punched me in the stomach.
You go and sit over there, all move around, new feng shui, that's it, new feng shui.
In the pool house. No, well, I'm
people won't sit in their proper... People won't sit in their proper places.
Turn Gareth's mic up.
Right, Gareth, you're back on, son.
Personal.
Where is Gareth?
Fill up the fruit bowl. Come on.
Out.
Right, here we go. Let's get into... You're listening to Russell Brand on Radio X with Matt Morgan, Mr. G. Now we're going to have a little bit of commerciality. Oh, no, I think I'll do the poems myself. You're fired and all.
Radio X.
Check before you travel. Go to radiox.co.uk. Russell Brand.
Radio X.
There's no adverts queued up. But that's not our fault. That's not our part of the job, is it? So that's just like, okay, because there was no adverts queued up, just imagine something you want. Have a little moment. Maybe you want, what do you want? Often it's to do with a pension, isn't it? Do you want a pension? Have one. Trick-or-treat.com. That's one of my favourites.
Moonpig.com.
You're just
Moonpig.com.
look, you're giving free advertising to people.
I don't care if people buy it or not. I don't think it'll make them happy ultimately. But
denim.
if you need some... denim.
Good one.
Want some denim? Get a bit of denim. Why not buy yourself a nice
Denim's
denim?
coming back.
Is it?
Yeah, loads of denim, like jackets and stuff like that.
Denim never went away, girls.
Okay then, guys.
Tim Key, who's doing one of those adverts there, I think, for pensions, he once said, my father refuses to use the term denim and he refers to them only as blue trousers. Like that. Funny thing to say, isn't it? Hey, no adverts were lined up, but we don't really mind because we do the show for love and we're not actually paid very much money. So,
Aren't you on tour?
what do you mean by that?
You could advert for do a tour advert.
Ah, all right. Come and see me, Russell Brand, on my Rebirth tour. If you want to buy tickets, you can on russellbrand.com. And it's the show that critics are calling. And some are saying, oh, no. And then one man goes, not again. Get away from my wife.
When am I going to come and see this show?
When do you want to come? You'd love it. You got 2 jokes in it, which I credit you for. I never just...
Yeah. What, at the end, in small print?
I'd say it there, and then I sort of, like, I've strut around like Freddie Mercury, thrusting my pelvis, and then I
said that.
I write it down on a tiny bit of confetti, put it in my bottom, and then blow it off in the car home while stuffing G's Freddo frogs down my gob hole. No, like a few things that happened around. Do you remember that time when I had that argument outside Downing Street?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I talk about how you reacted to it.
Right,
like
right.
I go, Matt said this, Matt said that. And you'd like those bits. Twice, the 2 bits I've mentioned you.
Well,
Gee, you
fair
come
enough,
across
I'll come.
very badly. they're Matt Morgan.
When you do in London,
Society,
that's what I
heavily-
keep...
Yeah,
it's
come to
London
London
for
and
ages, isn't it?
Brixton, yeah, I know, because I'm on tour for the rest of my natural life.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to try some adverts again now, guys, okay?
Okay, guys.
All right,
Strap in.
Everyone at home, or if perhaps you're in a van, or perhaps you're just sat quietly in a garden, perhaps you're playing swing ball with yourself, solemnly and alone, and slowly the cable coils round the pole and you wonder why. Well, here's why. I'm a father of one, that is what I am. I live under the sun in a place called England. I do a radio show on Radio X. Back in the olden days, I used to have lots of sex. That was a poem written by myself and Leonard Cohen just weeks before he died. And he said, it's the best thing I've ever done. You're listening to Radio X, me, Russell Brand, Mr. Matthew Morgan, a man who's about to plunge into Instagram with the unwise enthusiasm of Godzuki, Godzilla's little pal. Mr. G's there. He's writing down a poem that he normally writes quite vengefully. It's never actually. It's always an optimistic and loving spirit.
That's what I go for. That's what I got.
You're a loving, passionate
really
man.
evil one.
What?
Like a really nasty one.
No, it'll be
don't.
dark.
G's
Real
got a lot of love in him, but yeah, there's a darkness. There's a darkness. We've all got great darkness in us. We've got deep darkness. That's one of the things that holds us together as a triumvirate. So now we've told you why we had an argument. Apparently, I expelled Matt from a Hollywood mansion simply to make probably more room for strangers, probably. Dear old Matt, I'd like to apologise to you live on air for doing that.
You did apologise.
Yeah.
When we did your part of your 12 steps,
Oh, yeah.
apparently I put a cushion over my face, which I don't remember. But I thought that was something else.
I had to make amends to Matt. That means you apologise for what I've done. And if anyone thinks I'm an amends, you can just sod off. No, I'll do
It was
it.
funny, though, because you were sort of patting yourself on the back. As
Was
you
I?
were
Was I?
going, you started off going, yeah, no, I've got to make amends to anyone I've wronged. That's part of my programme,
Recovery
part of my recovery. I said, okay, cool. And he's like, yeah, it's pretty tough for me to do this. But and then he was saying all this stuff, and I was like, oh, I don't really remember it. That didn't really annoy me that day. No, shut up. Look, listen, look, it's part of the whole thing. I have to say, no, I didn't mind you doing that. That was all right. And then, yeah, sort of fizzled out. Anyway, this is done now. I've done that. Tick that off.
I guess I must have come across as a pretty glamorous guy back in the day.
Oh, no, it was quite tragic.
No, with my motorcycle. This is the way I remember it. I was the chief of a motorcycle gang. Guess you could call me the leader of the pack. It must have been cold there in my shadow. Yeah, I was probably a bit of a twerp. I remember it, but I do remember you holding the pillow in front of your face. So there must have been some sort of emotional reality to it. Otherwise, why
Yeah.
the pillow? It was all pillow.
I don't know why I did that, but when because it's in the book, isn't it? And so you sent me a bit of it and said, check this is all right legally.
Yeah, check that's all right, Matthew.
And I remembered holding a pillow then, and I thought, well, that must have been because I find things like that awkward.
People do.
It must have been very awkward talking to a man with a pillow on his face.
I just carried on. I liked old pillow face. I just pretended Slash was nearby and you'd ballooned out into wide face, Matt.
I'm going to see Guns N' Roses next week.
Oh, yeah, you sorted it out yourself, didn't you? See, now, if you're on the internet, Matthew, on social media, you'll be able to do all sorts of manipulating your way into events of your choosing, won't you?
But you don't run your own internet.
I don't look at it in case someone hurts my feelings. So Jenny over there, the old feelings.
What about my feelings? They're going to get.
Oh, be careful of your feet. No, you'll be all right because. I don't think you're as... I'm quite a divisive person, aren't I? Old Jengo, Jenny May Finn, she looks after it. Sometimes if, say, my ego, I'll sort of think, don't have a look at the old internet, make me feel good about myself. And then someone will say something, I go, you dirty little bit of technology. But none of it's real. I think that's interesting that... Because when you connect with people on an emotional level, see their G likes to make his poems positive, and why we need that kind of art and why we need that kind of connection is it can be quite difficult to communicate those things.
But I think etiquette, right, hasn't evolved onto the internet because the way people are on the internet is that it's so horrible.
It's like driving. It's like road rage, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not a real... You wouldn't say that in public. You wouldn't say that to someone's face.
No,
so it's
I
this sort of faceless thing. But I've noticed on Twitter, someone will say something really horrible to someone famous, then they'll come back and go, oh, I'm sorry you didn't like that film. It's all right, mate. I love all your other... They sort of suddenly go on the back foot.
They rehumanise themselves.
Go, oh, God.
To get attention.
Yeah.
Hey, go on.
But don't you think that, the reason why people do get all venomous and whatever, like, say, YouTube comments and Twitter and all that kind of stuff, is because they're spending so much time being, promoting their etiquette in real life that... all these
gloves are off.
The creatures from the id come out, right?
You might be right, because whatever it is that's being expressed, it must be in there somewhere. It's not a manufactured commodity, is it? It's there.
Do you think there should be, or there could possibly be, a thing where the internet, you sign up to it, it's got your real information, and so there's no faceless comments anymore? Would that be a better world?
What, so that people had to be culpable for it? I think it'd be interesting to find our way back to humanity, because, say this thing, right? There's this brilliant sort of writer, I think she works under the name Just Jack or something like that. Do you know what I mean, Jenny? She wrote a piece about Diane Abbott, because during the sort of election campaign, Diane Abbott took a lot of criticism. And, this woman, who's a white writer, said about how much of that stuff about Diane Abbott is really racist, even the stuff that's not declaratively racist. I met Diane Abbott once when I went to Downing Street that time, right, with them campaigners for the New Era estate. Right, and Diane Abbott was at the gate to Downing Street as we were going in there to sort of deliver this petition and all that. And because it had been such a hugely successful campaign, I think Diane Abbott was trying to angle to sort of be in the photos and stuff. Now, obviously, I'm a man who's got a little bit of an ego myself, so I was like, "What you do? How come you're here all of a sudden?" She was like, "Oh no, to support the campaign." I was going, "Don't need support now, mate." You know what I mean? Because that's my ego, right? And then when I read this thing about Diane Abbott, it said it talked about where she'd come from, how hard her upbringing was and how committed she's been. She's a lifelong activist, and all the various scholarships that she'd won and what the adversity she'd overcome. I thought, no wonder that woman hustled. She'd got a hustle. Yeah. So it made me feel different. And then they showed some of the tweets, the level of racism, which I sort of again, I guess because I'm a white person, I thought, people aren't like that now, not in this country.
But don't you think that in a way, that's the world we live in, and she stepped into the arena, and you step into the gladiatorial pit, you're going to face the swords?
I suppose so, but
because you can have an idea of the world should be this way, in which case, oh my God, I'm offended. But then you can just go, look, the world is the way it is.
Yeah, but we are the should, aren't we? We are the should. We could decide to not have it be like that. Now, social media does mean everybody's got, the social media means everyone's got this voice, but we could collectively decide what is permissible and what's acceptable. The problem is that it gets into censorship, and suddenly people, people always use that in the service of the wrong idea.
Yeah, but what's interesting about this election is the whole right-wing press and even the Guardian, so the left-wing press, attacking Corbyn because the left didn't think he was a leader and the right just didn't, obviously different politics. Yeah. All that against him, and he went up. right? So that means that old machinery doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, the machine's starting to fall apart. I think you're right, and I think it's because Jeremy Corbyn is authentic. You can't fake having been in politics and been in Parliament for 40 years. You can't fake those photos where he's, you know, like protesting against apartheid in the bloody 80s. You can't fake that he's got an allotment that he makes. He's like an authentic person. People are like, oh my God, this guy's real. A comparable thing, I think, happens with Trump. Like, the guy that's what he is.
He is what he is.
Yeah,
he is what he is, and that's increasingly becoming attractive.
No matter what you are. Yeah, but it's because politics is so... What about those interviews with, like, David Cameron, where they've got, like, the same answer to every question?
Slick.
It's all that slickness, and it just makes you switch off from them and not see them as human. So anyone comes along and says what they... You know, like a natural sort of... Even Trump, you go, oh, right, he's a normal person.
Because I think we got used to the frequency of white noise communication of, like, you know, it is New Britain, it is New Labour, you know, like a meaninglessness.
Hug a hoodie, yeah.
Yeah, all of that stuff. They don't mean this, so you just switch off. So when sort of like Trump just goes, well, I don't care, that's what I'm like, oh, hold on a minute, this is interesting, even if you think it's deplorable. And then when it's someone who actually aligns with your belief system, and I heard Mark Steele saying, the comedian Mark Steele, saying, like, the fact is as well, things have drifted so much over the last few years. There's someone going, like, renationalisation and a bit of corporation tax. These are not radical ideas, but they've been framed as radical for like such a long while that's where the misstep was, is that they're not radical. So loads of people that would have been gone to the alt-right and UKIP went, that is actually what I want. I just want a bit more fairness, you know. So
big corporations should pay tax like normal people, and they don't. So until that's sorted out.
And the fact is that well-off people should pay more tax, isn't it? And I speak from that position. It's like, if you are well, like, it does a little bit make you go, oh, but it doesn't so much. Do you know what? As a person that is well off now, like, I think paying tax and then you think it's going to hospitals, it's going to schools, it's going to a fairer society, you think, oh, fair enough, mate, thanks, all right, nice one, I want to live in a fairer society. But when it's like, you just know someone's milking it, it's on an expense account, someone's buying missiles and doing deals in Saudi Arabia, you think, I don't give you no tax. It's because we lose our investiture in society, we lose our investiture in a common project. And I think that Jeremy Corbyn became a sort of an epitome of just decency. It's like, well, what kind of leader do you want?
But you know what scares
slick
people about that is that if you go, he's decent, but the world's not, and especially on the geopolitics, someone like that is great for, you know, hospitals and like domestic stuff. But you've put him on the world stage against Putin and people in the Middle East and whatever. Trump.
I mean, I don't know.
Just think it's
I wasn't the biggest fan of Corbyn, but when I saw him defend himself against, you know, the whole Trident thing, and they hit him with about 6 or 7 questions, and he defended himself intelligently.
He made Paxman look silly. He exposed Paxman for what Paxman does, which is sort of pantomime.
It is pantomime. It's a vaudevillian trope. It's like Paxman knows what he's doing. And that the other thing about like Corbyn is he's been in the game a long time. He's schooled. So he's just like, he was like, I thought I seen one like that Andrew Neil or whatever. He was just chilled. Like, oh, this is that thing. All right, we've got some tweets here. The article about Diane Abbott is by at MX Jack Monroe. We're talking about it on radio. Oh, that's from us. That's from Mary Wallencroft. I should look through the ones over there. Make that look...
Lenny just tweeted that from the show.
Now, there's someone's tweeted here, and it's me, apparently. Right, so there you go. But I think that's actually quite an interesting thing.
Where's our etiquette expert? This has turned into sort of politics on Radio 4.
The etiquette... Right, no, hold on. Do you want me to make it stupid? Because if there's one thing I know how to do is to make things stupid very quickly.
I think he heard the beginning of the show, and as an etiquette expert, oh no, this won't do.
Oh, this is terrible manners.
It's me.
I'm going to take my trousers down, right down midway to the calf, the most humiliating place where a trouser and pants could be. I'm going to take these berries, these fruits of the forest, and, if I may, I'll take an emery board from my men's
normal
grooming
services
kit.
resumed.
As you were.
As you know,
As you were.
your late father and I, Majesty, sometimes at Harvest Festival would break away from the throng, find some quiet time at the back of a teepee, and taking an emery board from my inside pocket.
Off,
oh no, you start looking at your papers. G writes a bit of poem.
I don't even consider it part of the show.
Rachel Gillies goes, Russ, why don't you join the Matt Morgan Appreciation Society? I'll tell you why, mate.
Greatest appreciator there's been.
I'm the greatest appreciator. I'm like the Moses of Matt Morgan Appreciation. I brought down the tablets. I have seen the Promised Land. I may not get there with you, but I've seen it. It's definitely a Promised Land. It's got,
seen it.
I've seen it, mate. It's well nice. You've got to get to this Promised Land. Talking about Martin Luther King, why do I keep getting it? Do you know much about James Baldwin?
Yeah.
He's amazing. Did you see that documentary on Netflix? Really good.
Brilliant book, was it? Is it Nobody Knows My Name? You know,
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I've never read that. I don't know
Go
much
Tell
about
It on the
him.
Mountain. Yeah, he's amazing.
But he's almost, but I suppose from a literature perspective up there, like he's like a civil rights figure, but perhaps as significant as Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, but from a literary as opposed to civil rights perspective.
One of the greats.
Man,
An openly gay black man in the 60s.
That's a hand to play, isn't it? It's the 60s.
That'll
I'm
get
going to be
elected.
openly gay. I like this black gay guy. What about him? Hello, Russ, Matt and G. Finally caught up on... Anyway, you should watch that. I Am Not Your Negro, it's called.
Yeah.
Hi, Russell, Matt and G, says Sarah. Finally caught up on the podcast here. You're talking about the old sketch videos that used to float around. Ugh, that make them sound like a stool that's been discarded. I don't know, perhaps that's perfect. They used to float around the internet. Sorry for burping, but the etiquette experts engaged. Debunked, Tim Westwood pimps, etc. Thanks for bringing back the weird memories. It's great to hear you back on the radio again.
I'd like to
Sarah.
do more sketches.
Why don't we do more sketches? Remember we were going to do a thing, weren't we, mate? I want to do some of my voices.
You're do things. You always got these big ideas. We
I
have
wanna do this
2-hour
guy.
phone conversations and then...
Come on then, book some time in. Gareth, you'll produce it.
Yeah,
G,
let's do it.
you can warm it up somehow, but you're too poetic and literary. So you're too high-minded. We'll end up right. Now, look, guys, I got some messages for you. They're ever so simple. What are you holding in your hand? Like you're like a person who's about to read an apology. You're like an MP who's been caught
This is my
out.
notice and I'm handing it in.
What are you about to read? Because are you going to read? Tell us what it is.
He's
and
got
we'll
to
play the
adverts. Like
advert.
he's doing a big cut your head off
Here
sign.
comes a network. Da-da-da. It is a network.
Oh, hi there, Chris.
That record. I think it was.
Saw me put a whole egg in my mouth and then you spaded that down.
Why did you put a whole egg in your mouth? What were you
An egg.
thinking?
Cool Hand Luke.
Eat half an egg?
You know it is impossible to eat a great many eggs. You know that, don't you?
I've eaten 2.
Well, you can't. One of my first breaks into show business, and perhaps this is a foreshadowing of everything that pursued it, was like I worked for MTV promoting Jackass before it came out
I remember
in
those days,
England.
yeah.
Do you remember? I was so happy to get money. I couldn't believe it. And I used to go around supermarkets with MTV though, so it didn't seem like not supermarkets, like shopping centres, you know, like Lakeside or Blue Wall or something, right? And like they would do a roadshow thing where it was getting people to eat a certain number of eggs, mimicking the Cool Hand Luke scene where Cool Hand Luke eats 50 eggs. He's cool in that film, Cool Hand Luke, as well. He deserved that title. And anyway, I was getting people to eat eggs in public. No one could eat more than like about 4 or 5. It's like that Ritz cracker thing. It's like one of those things people think they can do and get in the world. Didn't we try and get in the world record books?
Yeah, I
once in
tried to
Radio
eat
2?
bananas and I...
But you failed. You were so
got close though.
I felt like you should have been
I
able
thought
to
that
do
couldn't
it.
be the record because it was so achievable.
Yeah, and we've got a lovely caution wet floor thing there.
The banana crown.
Not wearing that crown.
No,
Why not?
you don't deserve it actually
I'll wear it.
because you didn't break the record. Is the simple
But
truth.
hang on,
of
how
the
many
matter.
eggs did they eat?
Like Cool Hand Luke at 50, but real people could
couldn't
only
do
eat like 10 or something. Like even that, and people would
Bound.
fall apart. They do get egg bound. They fall apart at the seams. Now, like this is the second hour of the show. Now we hope you're enjoying it so far. This will be available as a podcast. You can get us on iTunes or whatever app you use to download podcasts. Remember too to look on Under the Skin. Coming up, Yanis Varoufakis. Am I saying it right? Yanis Varoufakis.
Yeah,
You can see why I'm being cautious. I mean, he's that guy that was the Greek finance minister. I interviewed him the other day. He was absolutely high-level, intelligent person. Now, you may, if he came into your consciousness, it may be because, you know, he was a key figure in Syriza, or it may be because there was once a list of cleverness people in England, the cleverestness list. Do you remember that?
Cleverestness.
That's right. And Thomas Piketty and Naomi Klein and Yanis Varoufakis, they was the people that were above me. I was in at number 4.
And he's Greek.
That's right. It was the world.
Oh, right.
And that's where I was Champions League places.
You were number
in the world,
4?
in the whole world of most cleverest and influential people. So bear that in mind next time you're criticising me because I won't let you live in my mentions. So anyway, that Yanis Varoufakis, oh my God, he's sort of like a composition of like the knowledge. It was like talking to sort of Adam Curtis, Brad Evans. It was like a sort of a storm of intense intellect. It was really, really
Sound
brilliant.
like you might have a man crush.
He's asked me to go to Greece with him, and you know what goes on there? Athens. Well, he's married, isn't he? And not, as am I.
Seen their
to be.
jugs.
I've had a look at your ceramics, and it's quite clear what you're thinking about, mate. I've seen some of your statues, some of your pillars, and you're up no bloody good. What's going on? So anyway, he was like, but you should listen to that episode of Under the Skin when it
I will
comes
listen
out.
to that. I haven't listened to them.
Yeah, well, you'd like the Adam Curtis one, probably. You might like, what other ones were good? Oh, Yuval Noah
Say that, 'cause
Harari.
what about the people who are on it and you don't list them? They're going to hear that and go, I thought my one was good.
Well, I'm sorry to tell you now that if I didn't list you then, you were grave disappointment to me. No place on the airwaves. No, it's just like the ones with you, Matthew. You know, like when you don't recommend like things to people you know, you don't tell people to watch or listen to your stuff.
You know what I don't like about recommendations, right? And this might just be my problem.
As a concept, you don't like the concept of a recommendation.
Yeah. Well, no, I like them, but if someone tells me read that book, right? When I read that book, there's a little ghost of that person all the way through it.
Yeah,
they taint it with their being. And I hate them.
I'd like you to have a little look at the Bible.
So and then I'll think of you going, keep reading, buddy. Hey, Matthew, don't give up now. You're going to be fine. Those long words are okay. Just look at the dictionary.
Yeah, I mean, I know what you mean about that. You're right. And even with a film or anything.
Their presence becomes so...
Their looming presence, the ghost of the recommender.
About 10 years of having that in my life, like that music, until...
You feel it's yours.
That tether has broken and it becomes...
You're right. There's certain things like, for example, him out of the Pixies, Frank Black or whatever. Yeah. Because you were the first person told me to listen to him. Now he's like, he might as well have been burped out of your back pocket. Yeah. Because like you own Frank Black as far as I'm concerned. That's when he come in.
Really, you guys really hold on to those recommendations?
Grudges.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Real good. Don't you hold on to the recommendations?
If someone recommends something and I like it, then I like it. Then I like it.
We've got a good enough sense of self, Matt. Because I was thinking about it now, because I liked Ice Cube from NWA, but then G really liked Ice Cube and told me to listen to Ice Cube.
An ice cube, like it's an ice cube, not a person who's called Ice Cube.
I like Ice Cube, because they really call me
Ice Cube.
It's a hot summer's day, and I popped it onto my tongue, and I feel so much more calm.
I like Ice Cube the way you like Morrissey. That's
your thing.
It's obsessive.
Well, now I think of you with Ice Cube, and
This is why I don't like the Smiths. I do like the Smiths, right? But the Smiths might as well be called the Russell Brand Smiths, right? So when I listen to it, and he goes, "Oh, I'm going to hit by a bus," and it'll be great. I think
he did not say, "I'm going to be hit by a bus and it'll be great." If a 10-ton truck killed the both of us, and if a double-decker bus crashes into us, to die by your side is a heavenly way to die, which is a stream point.
No, but that's what I hear. I hear you.
Listen to this bit. You hear me do my snivelly analysis and why it's so clever and stuff. Hey, guess what? Yeah, right. You have my recommendation. So that's the opposite of a recommendation. That's like it's tainting.
You go
dooming.
Here, do you want to think about me all the time?
No, thank you. I've had quite enough of you in the old brain for one life. This Daily Mail, and I've decided to reach out in love to everyone in the world, including the Daily Mail, because especially now that they've had it, they might feel a little bit obsolete.
After you threw soup at one of their journalists.
I did throw soup at one of their journalists.
Not hot soup, though. He's
cold
not an animal.
soup. I'm not an animal. Cold soup.
Rejected soup.
Cold soup out of a bag. I did do that. And the other thing I done was I did tweet that journalist card, and people were really sort of like, that's out of order. And I thought, well, he's outside my house. Well, who's drawing these lines anyway? But like my point was, in the Daily Mail, they printed a story about me saying rude stuff about Morrissey, but I was joking. Like, I love Morrissey, and I can tell that the intention is to cause antagonism between me and Morrissey, even more than to provide news, because it's not enough of a story. Like me, because it was a very funny thing that after a show at the Apollo, in Hammersmith Apollo in London, Morrissey came with Victoria Wood, God rest her soul, and Chrissy Hind, and like that, and in the room afterwards, Alain de Botton, that philosopher, I'd not long known him, and he was proselytising about me in a way that was making my ego bristle with sticky pride, and he was going like, well, Russell Brand, he's beyond a comedian, he's beyond a philosopher. I mean, if he wasn't a comedy, you say a comedian, you say he's the most important voice of our age. I mean, the fact is, there's no box you can put him in. And Morrissey went, how about a coffin? Like that, right? And I sort of tell that story sometimes because I think it's a funny example of Morrissey's dryness. And then, like, exactly, but the Daily Mail printed it like I was going, that Morrissey geezer, I like to lamp him on the chops, as I would. And Morrissey, he's a sensitive fellow, he might see that, although will he be reading the Daily Mail? He might.
Probably.
Yeah.
Pretty right, wouldn't you?
Not Moz, no, Morrissey has no politics.
Claims Morrissey's right.
Oh, there you go, that's it, but you'll be blamed for that, I deny it all. Darius Gilson, long-time fan. When I listen to your show too much... you can't listen to it too much, mate. The voice in my head is your voice. It's not me doing an impression of you. It's your voice. Oh, I'm taking over people's consciousness. I like this. Because the voice that you call yourself, your own inner voice, I mean, how did it get there? Who is it? Is it really you?
I keep having that thing where you become self-aware. Like I'm saying something. Yeah. I've always had it a bit, but I've had it recently a lot, where I'm saying something and I hear myself as a third person listening to myself.
I know what you mean.
You know, when you become sort of aware, you're not living in the moment, you've become the third eye.
Oh, man, that's amazing. That's psychedelic. That's you're transcending changing self because the ego
Very
is a
nice. It's
construct.
not like, woo, yeah, I'm Jim Morrison.
Go
feels
with
like,
it.
I'm going mad.
Ride the snake, baby. Ride the snake. Ride the snake to the
It always
lake.
happens when I'm talking to my children because I sort of deep down still don't think
I'm a
you're
dad.
a dad of 2 children. So when I'm going, right, don't do that, come back, I hear myself saying it. And another part of myself, my true self, goes, what's happening?
Why are you doing this?
You're talking to those children.
Excuse me, like you've got a little interjector in the balcony, in a critic.
The demon, the Daemon.
Do you say it Damon?
Once. I
Gotta say Damon. Don't say
sounds
demon,
like
it's too
talking about
confusing.
Blur, but demon, yeah.
Oh, I've got an inner voice, a little inner voice.
In the rain park.
He don't let me parent. You're right. Okay, so you've got a little inner voice. There's too many swear words potentially.
Yeah,
there. G, the poet got that. All right. So well. That inner we've got to suppose work out what is the true nature of the self there and parenting, because I suppose you have such a strong connection to yourself as a child to see yourself in the other role, in the other
And also my
relationship.
strong connection to my parents as parents, right? And hearing you end up saying the same stuff
that they said to you.
Things that say, like, be nice
not gonna do
to
it.
play nicely with your sister and things like that. And you hear these cliches come out, right? And I literally, I was cooking their dinner and I left them in one room and I came in and went, and Winter was crying, so Cohen had done something to her. And I went, I can't leave you two alone for 1 minute. Like that.
I'm going to put all your
said it.
stuff in bin bags. You're just like your dad. You're like your dad.
Yeah. Well, that's a bit of your own stuff creeping
No,
in
no,
there.
that was just an arbitrary example that anyone could have said. Don't know where that one came from.
But you said that Laura, your partner, and
Yeah.
let's not pretend.
What do you mean?
Well, because I sometimes say that, and I see you like bristle a little bit, like you don't tell everyone.
I'm really proud of her.
I know that, but I mean, like you, I don't know,
Like there's a privacy
You're
thing.
protective over her, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
anyway.
She went out last night, come back lashed.
Right. Well, so did my wife. 2 nights ago.
What about wives going out, getting on the
went out
lash?
for a
What was your
birthday.
wife doing last night, G?
She was reading me a bedtime story.
That ain't on. What's
What?
going on with our marriages?
My wife went to a strip club with all her female
Which
friends.
one? Because my wife went to a strip club and all.
Wife.
I don't know, one of them.
I
What
know
one?
the one.
To see bloody that thing, Magic Mike. Was it that one?
Oh, women.
Oh, God.
That's a thing,
Mother
mate.
of God.
That is a thing.
I have seen the promised land.
That's what girls do these days.
Oh, no.
But anyway, this is the thing that I know you were starting to tell me, right? Because Laura came home a little drunk. So did my wife, right? When you're looking after children and your wife's gone out, even though they do all the childcare normally, want most of it. Hang on, something's going on.
Yeah, go on. They do the childcare normally.
Yeah. We don't need beds. Look, just listen to what I'm saying. He's trying to desperately put on step tones.
I'm producing a radio show. Go on.
Oh,
It was
that's-
relevant
was
ages
it-
ago.
that was
Ages ago
worth
was
it, was
relevant.
it?
No, it wasn't worth it. Go on. So yeah, there you.
All right, so
it
when-
wasn't worth it.
But I turn in. I don't know if this is the right example, but I sort of feel like Erin Brockovich.
Why do you think you are not Erin Brockovich? That woman fought against the odds. She came up through the ranks. She became a lawyer. She fought against the corporations that were
If
poisoning
I'm
the
left
water.
for more than about 2 hours,
You're
no,
Erin
that's-
Brockovich.
with my
You
children,
become Erin
and my wife's
Brockovich.
texting me saying like, oh, "I'm really drunk. We're going here. We're going here." I sort of think, "Oh God, I'm just struggling with these kids while I've been left alone." I get in my head, I become this quite feminist sort of icon.
You after
really
2
weird.
hours alone, you become
A bit more
Erin
than 2
Brockovich.
hours. I'm hoovering, I've
feminist
fed the
icon.
children, I've put them to bed, and then I'm sitting there stone cold sober, and I'm getting texts like, "Oh, I'm drunk, we're going here, having a good time," and stuff like that.
Hey, I was
And
becoming
feel
Erin
so
Brockovich
wrong.
as well.
I
'cause
feel so strong.
stronger that this is wrong.
Strong woman.
Like a strong one. We've been put on the back foot
Did
by
you
men
feel
all
like
our
that?
life. Yeah, it got a bit late. I was all right all day long. I was enjoying being daddy daycare, and my baby was just in a nap. Like honestly, my baby drops 5 or 6 classes when my girlfriend goes out. Like she was just in a nappy, covered in stuff, like all gunk. I never washed her. I just gave her whatever food she wanted all of the time. We was like hanging out in like not dodgy places, just like not where my girlfriend would hang out.
I mean, in the house or
Like
in
where?
places like
Out and
Peckham.
about.
Peckham.
Out about, weren't we? Getting amongst it, weren't we? Quitting.
Up the front in your van.
Out the front, daddy, where were we? Getting
What
amongst
do you
it.
mean? Well, you were like,
Well, like, she was like, just in, like, my girlfriend dresses our baby in immaculate attire, makes her look gorgeous all the time.
I don't do that when I'm
What's the
just
point?
at home.
What's the point? She don't even know what clothes are.
Pyjamas.
I just put her in a nappy.
Leave them in their pyjamas.
Nappy, little pouch full of sort of fruit. Give her that.
Yeah.
She's right as rain. But, like, I enjoyed it all day long, being Daddy Daycare. I was really doing brilliant. I was really connecting with that child. But
Did you have third eye, or were you in the
dog was
moment?
jealous. I did a lot of... I was in the moment a fair bit. Then there's a bit where I was driving along and I called up Tim Spall, the actor, to just bring a bit to ground me again. I did, actually, because I love Tim Spall. Don't you love Tim Spall?
You were driving along.
It's brilliant, any Tim
with
Spall.
your baby. I hope that was on the car phone, the in-car phone.
Nope. And actually, you do have to drive a lot more careful with a baby in the car.
Oh,
That's one tip.
Yeah.
Got to take it up 20-30% for the baby. Anyway, then and then yeah, but you're right, Matthew. Come 10 o'clock, I started thinking like sort of feeling like you're an oppressed person that's really having to carry the household. But they must do it all the time, of course.
I know, they must think we're horrible.
They hate us.
But I only could.
Colin,
Like,
is there a tyranny in
I
the
do a
family?
lot of childcare. It's not like I'm not very old-fashioned at all. We're pretty equal, right? But then I've got to work sometimes, but I go out more because I've got to go to a work thing or something. Right?
Yeah, that's
so.
right.
And I was thinking about the actual time.
Well, Dan, you
when
work in
I'm
men's
out-
club.
When I'm out, exactly. When I'm out, I don't feel like, oh, she's at home, she's doing that,
struggling.
she's doing bath time.
We've got to be
bedtime.
nicer to our wives.
No, but then when I'm at home, bath time, bedtime, I literally feel, I sit there, I feel like I should get an award.
I do. Like, by 10:30, I was singing, I may not be a lady, but I'm all woman. From Monday to Sunday, I work my
I
fingers
feel like I
to
should
the
get be on
bone.
Hearts of Gold, and they should say, and then at 10 p.m. the baby woke up, but you went up there and you dealt with that, and then at 11 p.m. you tried to go to sleep but you couldn't. Then you had to go outside and put the key outside for the missus.
There was a bit while you played on Xbox for a while, but that didn't last
It's
long.
all right. That was just a little bit for you.
You deserve that. You've got to make a bit of me time for mummy. We're some sort of atavistic throwback sexist pigs from yesteryear, are we?
Yeah, but no.
No, we're not. We're just sensitive, are we? There was a very interesting bit a minute ago where we were talking about the true nature of consciousness and how we can't stay in our own self because the self may be a construct. And that's the sort of thing you want on Radio X, isn't it? As long as there are... No, you do not do that when I'm... Daddy's trying to play an advert. All I do is work for you and this family, and you throw it back in my face. Here's a little guy called Glenn Advert. When he was 19 years old, he conceived of something that changed
don't know what you're
Britain.
doing.
Yeah, well done with your adverts, everyone. That was Glenn Advert's latest project, an installation piece which he calls Commercial Break. Now, later on, we're going to be talking to a psychiatrist, Shrinky Poos, the psychiatrist. Shrinky Pot. Hold on, check. What's her name? In this case, like the
Emma
etiquette-
Kenny.
Emma Kenny. And now the actual, the etiquette expert couldn't be bothered to come. He said because he was in a blow-off contest in Snot Town. He was too busy doing that. So sadly we've lost him. We've got some lovely tweets from you, the listeners. And let's never forget that we actually make this show for you out of sheer, unadulterated narcissism. Love, actually, it's love. Russ, keep your leg down. You're putting me off my boiled eggs, says Kate Duffy. How dare you, Kate?
Oh, no.
That's what happens when the etiquette expert don't show up.
Oh, no. That is a new low.
Is it a new low?
I think you
Come
might
on,
have
we've
done
been
that.
lower than that.
No, oh, come on.
We can get lower, man. We can do
I
it.
bet Moyles or
If we
Johnny
keep-
Vaughan will ask for that.
They use the
microphone
same
to-
mic. Yeah,
Bing.
Johnny Vaughan and Chris Moore. Sorry, chaps. Sorry. And Gordon Smart. We love Gordon Smart. He's on straight after this one.
I owe him 60 quid. I need
You
to...
bet. That's interesting, mate. Went out for a night and ended up owing someone 60 quid. No more questions on that
taxi.
topic. Yeah,
For a
right, mate. You're right,
taxi.
bruv. Right, bruv. Yeah, whatever.
Don't know the
This
prices.
is from Poggy Nose. I'm hiding in the toilets at work to contact you. Well done. What do you want, mate? You don't just say that. That's the message was just the message. Like
Oh, is
from
that it? It hasn't actually added any...
There's no other content to it. Russ, I'm listening to you, says Rachy Roo. I'm listening to you while trying to be a district nurse out on visits. You're brightening up my day no end. Keep it up, district nurse
Yeah,
Rachy
yeah, yeah.
Roo. We
Yeah.
support you, do
You're
we?
the real heroes.
Exactly.
Imagine we were district nurses.
Well,
I
it
mean,
would
give
go
us
badly.
5 hours at home with our children.
Well,
and
we
we'd
have to
feel
do
like
visits to the elderly and to people that needed home care.
Mum used to be a district nurse.
I know.
Same with mine.
I know. No, your stop. Look, stop saying your mums were district nurses because I met both of your mothers and they were capitally list of pigs.
That's a pretty eloquent mum cuss. Like a high grade playground mum cuss.
Hey guys, don't get sacked, says Gemma Bracknell. That's a warning from the listeners. They can tell the energy's high today. High energy. Why is that? What's happened?
Weird energy.
It's weird energy. What's
because
going on?
I think we're conduits to a weird energy. And you are mainly.
I'm an agent of the Lord of
Me and G
Chaos.
are more sort of like, we're just sort of like the, I don't know.
But it
like
goes wrong when you go to
the
me, Matt.
moons
It's very
to your
bad.
planet, but you're the weirdo.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
It's
you
always-
are the weirdo.
I remember Matt once saying, Matt once went, why do these things keep happening? It's him. It's him. Pointing at me.
First.
Yeah, I've got the black spot, you see.
I also did throw peanuts out of a window at a hotel.
That's funny.
They landed on someone, then a sort of fight started.
It was
and then
very
I
high
said,
up.
Yeah, we were very high up, so there was a bit of safety. But I went, why do these things keep happening to us?
And then the people came in the hotel together. So the hotel leads Matt in.
They were looking for us.
That was funny. That's this sort of energy. When at least we're a bit more responsible now.
We used to
Why
do
won't you
that.
interview me for that lecture up in Edinburgh?
Because it's terrifying. And also, you asked me to do it. Well, let's explain this to the listeners.
Yeah.
There's this thing called up in Edinburgh. There's
McTaggart lecture, right?
Yeah, and then there's the
Armando
not the
Iannucci's done. Oh, is this the not
There's
the
the
McTaggart?
McTaggart, and then there's the not the McTaggart.
Which one are
It
you
isn't
doing?
Not the.
Ah.
So that's
I
more
googled the McTaggart
avant-garde.
lecture. See, Armando Iannucci's done it, and it's like an address.
Right, well, hello. Right, it's going to be
and
so
I
serious.
went, and me and you doing it out there giggling and trying to pull each other's trousers down.
I think you'd be a good interviewer. It'd be good for you. It'd be good for your career. It'd be good for your profile. It shows a new, good showcase for your new talent. Get some more Instagram
you
followers.
need to. What am I interviewing you about? What would I do?
Telly. It's the television awards.
God.
Well, you don't. I know why you don't want to do it, because you don't want to take me seriously, do you? You don't want to sit there and go,
No, I
so
don't
what
wanna
inspired you, Russell, with Ponderland? I go, oh, well, Ponderland, you know, I really thought that I needed to get to the essence of what made Britain tick.
Hang on a minute.
Made Britain tick.
No, it's nerve-wracking for me to go up there. And also, this is why I thought, because I thought it was the McTaggart lecture, Armando Iannucci's obviously put a lot of work into this thing. I know you'd put zero work in.
There'd be no
I'd ask
work
you
done.
questions, and you'd just wing it, and then at the end of an hour and a half, we'd just go, is that enough? And walk off.
Yep.
And everyone would probably already left.
They will not have left. They'd love our lecture.
Well, let's
You
think
need to
about
be a
it.
bit more confident. Right, we'll announce who's won tickets to see me doing Rebirth. Guess what? Emma Kenny, the psychiatrist, is not answering.
It's because of the show. They've
It's
heard
not
the
the
show,
show. People-
and they've.
Right now.
Imagine
Listeners-
listening to this. It sounds like a zoo, and
Listeners-
then they're never going to come into it.
We need you to help our self-confidence, because two of our guests, Emma Kenny,
A
and
psychiatrist who
a
obviously
psychiatrist
has
and
a
a manners-
professional view of this sort of thing.
a psychiatrist
And she's gone, well,
and
they're
a
quite
manners
mad.
expert.
I'm going out. And a manners expert has gone, well, they're terribly rude. I'm not going to answer the phone. Who's choosing these guests? We need
I
to
thought they'd be good guests.
need to get some
a
sort of
manners expert.
burglar or someone. They might answer the phone to us.
And here we have Fagan from from Victoria. Britain. All right, Governor.
He's not answering.
Yeah.
It's a bit silly.
What we've got is a hobo in fingerless gloves who's been drenched from a canal in a trolley. I'm afraid I can't do your show, Governor. The quality's not good enough, see? I've got to be at home. I've got terrible files. I'm afraid hobo that we've drenched from a canal couldn't make it. Right, Matthew, while you're...
Talk about cows killing
Strong and
themselves.
stable. Strong and stable.
This is a strong, stable show. We're not weak as and wobblers. Now listen, because I've got some funny things to say that are going to really change Britain. Now here's one of them. It's from a fella here. It's a lady, actually. She's called Nicola. Nicola, she says, I suffer from bad anxiety, and for the last few days I've literally had your old and new radio shows on a loop. It's the only thing that helps. So even though we may sound
We
like
have anxiety sometimes.
we've got anxiety.
wish
Matt gets
listening to us
anxiety.
helped.
I have anxiety. It does help. When I get anxiety, I just listen to my own voice is the anxiety, actually.
That's what I'm saying.
But we do help each other, and we're helping other people. Now, listen, we need some confidence. So if you're enjoying this show, text in now and really boost our confidence up, because two of our guests
Don't
have
need
not
any
come.
more confidence.
I do. Emma Kenny, you've let me down.
What you need to do is exactly explain to me why you have the world's thinnest bum bag with nothing in it. And you had it the other day
I've
when
got
we
the world's
swapped
finished
clothes.
bum, don't I?
He's got a little bum. Hold it up to the camera.
All right, here's my little thin bum bag. It's what's wrong with that?
But why have you
It's
got it
not
if there's
too
nothing
thin.
in it?
There's something in it.
What is in it?
You don't ask about
Give it
Eddie
to me.
first.
Give it to me. I want to look in there. I won't announce it if it's some sort of
Right,
sex
listeners, I'm handing it over. Now, you know last time we were on the radio, Matt dressed up as me, didn't he?
And I found
now
this,
I'm
and it's-
giving Nanny's bum
got
bag
it on
over.
again, and he
Nanny's
drove in. So
special
there's
purse.
something a cyclist.
Oh, he
would
snatched it. The way he took it out of my hand, it was like
is this all
I was in
about?
India once, and I fed some monkeys. I fed some monkeys in India, and the way those monkeys took the food, it was ungrateful.
I don't like that.
Right, that
There's
is-
no gratitude.
They scratch your hand.
Oh, yeah, and they look at your
talking
eyes.
about monkeys.
They look at your eyes, and they're like,
There's
"You
been a discovery.
mug." They like, "You
There's
mug."
been a
Mad.
discovery. A hairband and a little packet of tablets.
Those tablets is what
Really
makes
what they
Nanny
are.
be able to do such quality
Oh,
wireless.
how cute. On here in pen it says Russell's migraine tablets.
Yeah, because Russell, the person who I live in, gets migraine.
But hang on, haven't you got anything? Haven't you got a wallet?
No, wallet.
This is your wallet, this little bum
I
bag.
love my little thin bum bag.
Oh, that's made me feel really sorry for you. A little hairband and
Right,
his
that's-
migraine tablets.
That's all I need in life. You're all I need.
Have you got your little migraine bum bag, darling? Yeah, I've got it round my waist.
Yeah, well, how would she say that? Because she's laying in bed drunk, having been to a strip bar to watch Magic Mike's strip club.
Did she go to a strip bar?
Yeah,
A
my
boys'
girlfriend was
one?
at a strip club, but boys, your wife at least got the common decency for it to be a kinky,
All these feminists are
bisexual.
getting it wrong. It's
You
we.
fem-
We're
it's me
the
and Matt.
strugglers.
We're the Erin Brockovich. Who's your Erin Brockovich now? That's what I ask.
Drunkards.
I've really
and
let go, haven't I?
sexists, these women are.
Right,
Can we talk
okay.
about cows killing themselves, please?
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, if you thought this radio show was being a bit unprofessional, even though it's making at least one anxious person feel happy, we're going to try some structure. Remember to tweet me at Rusty Rockets for answers to that quiz, and mindless encouragement and buoyancy to keep our spirits up after Emmy Kenny, the psychologist, abandoned me. Emmy Kenny, the psychologist, and
Emma Kenny.
Emma Kenny.
Emma Kenny.
Frank McAvenny. Like when being abandoned by a psychiatrist, let me tell you something.
What? You
When I was a
can't
little
talk.
girl, I was,
psychiatrist.
you knew what I meant. When I was a little girl, I used to sit in my duffel coat, waiting to be picked up on a Saturday. And now it's
By
happened
your
again.
dad.
Anybody would have done. But this psychiatrist abandoning me has brought us to a new low. And how we fight back is with comedy. Matthew Morgan is going to do a new story. What's gone on, Matthew?
Swiss farmers left puzzled after cows throw themselves off cliff. I'm not saying this is funny, but it's interesting.
Interesting.
So you've sort
The
of
Swiss farmers
fused
are
it up.
puzzled, are they? They're puzzled about these cows flying themselves
Caused
off
a herd of
cliffs.
cows to jump to its death from a cliff in the Valais last week, right?
whole
13
herd?
cows broke out of their pen, ran towards a cliff, and either fell or threw themselves. I don't know how a cow throws itself.
Yeah, because it can't project itself. It can't bend down on its haunches and project itself.
Unless it's
it would
maybe
have meandered off of a
the
cliff.
noise might have been like... Right, so you knew it was putting an effort
A
in.
cow has got a lot of power, but I've never seen one launch. You know that story? Cow
They've
that bunks
trampled a
over
lot of
the...
people to death.
I know, I've been trapped in a field with cows before, cattle. When I used to live in the countryside in a former relationship, I would take this big white Alsatian, Brian, God, I loved him. Him and the cows didn't get on.
Right.
It caused a lot of tension. Now, I'll be in a field with Brian and the cows would surround us. And I had to go. This was when I'd only just met Brian. I go, Brian, mate, this is not good. What's going on here? We're going to have to escape this scenario. We're going to jump across
Brian
that
a
river.
talking dog?
He mostly listened. And then, like, we got away. The cows, though, they changed from big, docile, daft, you know, like you call them things like Maybell. Oh, that's my actual child's name. No, you call them, yeah, they got like, no, you know when they
Daisy,
Daisy.
Mabel, yeah.
Yeah, right. They changed to these intense-looking badasses. Like, they suddenly were a bit like...
Yeah, they can be quite scary.
Do you remember when you had to milk a cow? Me and you went to that Hare Krishna...
Yeah, them were glory days,
Yeah.
man.
And
There's
you had to-
nothing like milking a cow.
Yeah.
What do you mean? I milked it good, didn't I?
They see the cow as holy.
The cow is holy, the
But when
divine
you're
mother.
circled by them...
Scary. But perhaps I shouldn't have been in their field, but I just needed to get across it.
Well, that was when you didn't understand the rules of the countryside.
I know the codes of the
They
country.
probably had
I'm friends with a
babies. You're
farmer.
there with a dog.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, no, I'm not blaming the cows. I'm on the cow side.
They've trampled a lot of people to death. So, anyway, this is probably out of guilt that they killed themselves.
Right. Go on, they flung themselves. They were kind of
They fell or
launched.
threw themselves off the 50-metre drop. That's going to kill a cow, that weight. Last Wednesday night near the village of Levron. Levron in the Valais? Where's this happening? Sounds like it's futuristic.
It does sound very futuristic, and it's a very futuristic event.
Levron.
Levron sect quadrant 7G, sir. Someone close to these cows.
Bovine suicide, sir.
Bovine suicide. Unacceptable. 13 cattle down.
12 of them died. The 13th survived, probably because it landed on the others, but was injured and taken to an animal hospital in Bern. In total, the cows were thought to be worth... I'll bring it down to money.
That's out of order, isn't it?
20,000 francs. So this is in France. valet. Makes sense now. The cows broke through several lines around the pasture before finding themselves on the ridge. They fell into the void. What?
That's a very poetic way of terming that.
They fell into the void as though they were forced into it, said Norbert Terrataz,
We can't trust Norbert Terrataz.
president of a farming insurance company.
Oh,
it's an
Norbert.
insurance job. They've shoved them off.
I don't know why these cattle have done
Listen, old
this.
Terrataz, cows don't follow each other like sheep. When they're scared, they have a tendency to disperse.
Look at everyone! Do one!
I've recovered himself.
That's it. I didn't know that.
Well, it's
cows were so
interesting
individualistic.
when animals kill themselves. I think that sounds like a dreadful error on their part. They've probably only ever been fenced in. And they were like, ooh. They just, like cats or those experiments where they, if you, like babies will crawl to their mum across glass.
Will
They've
they?
got no concept of depth.
Hold on a minute. Oh, I see. I thought we meant
Do you know what I
broken
mean?
glass. I thought, who's doing these experiments, making a baby crawl across broken
No,
glass?
like a glass plane, right?
Yeah.
So they at first a baby doesn't have depth perception to like go, oh, there's my mummy, but hang on, there's a drop there.
Yeah, it won't
So
care
they'll
about that.
crawl across. So
I was
these
wondering
cows,
about
if they haven't been aware, if they'd always been in a field,
They
why
don't
would you have any
understand the concept
of a drop?
Because yesterday I was by a river and I was reversing and I had the baby in the car. And you know your car, when you're about to hit something, goes beep, 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 like it really panics
Yeah.
towards the end. It goes, no, this really, you are going to hit it now. You really should stop. Oh, bloody hell, I was telling you. Well, it doesn't know about rivers because that's not an obstacle, that's an abyss. So maybe a cow's mind is a bit like that thing that's at the back of my car. It goes, beep,
You
beep, beep, beep,
reversing right near a river with a baby in the car.
just for kicks, man. Just to pass the time. Now, we'll find out why that was, because we are going to be talking to a lady to whom consciousness and the brain box is a mere peccadillo. She understands the psychological motivations and the neurological causes for everything that happens in the domain of consciousness. That lady is Emma Kenny. She has overcome her prejudices of our ridiculous show, but and decided to come on the line. But before that, I trusted a tiny child to come up with an audio soundscape. This is what they done. That's what people want, and that, by Jove, is what they'll get. The competition to come and see me on my rebirth tour is now closed, so now is the time for downcast glances. Now is the time for deep, deep sorrow, for that competition is sadly over. But where the competition may have perished...
Haven't you got to give the answer?
Oh, no. We'll tell you later. Do you want to know now? What film was it in where a person who's not me goes, this will never happen in my kingdom again? Now, sadly, no one on earth knew. Did they? Who knew, Gal? We'll tell you later. Loads of people know. And we'll go and select you, and you'll be getting tickets to see me in a
What
show.
was the answer?
What's the answer?
I'm not telling you.
Oh, come on.
It's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and it's that little king geezer. He does it, doesn't he? He sits there. I have heard the rumours about the Kalimar.
Kali.
And people eating human skulls and stuff.
Eat.
It won't happen here again, will it? And then it is happening there again, and he made a liar out of himself. Look, a lot of people here are saying, Russ, Matt G, here's a confidence boost. You're doing absolutely fine. Also, Russell's toddler pants are alarming. Lots of love, Laura Marler from Derby.
Absolutely
Thank you.
fine. That's not a great review.
It's not actually. That's like a comforting thing that you would say to a child who's
Pat on
fallen
the
off his
head.
bike. Yeah, it's a pat on the head. It's patronising. Who do you have in your phone book you could call, says someone here? Alan de Baton. We can't just call up Alan de Baton, could we? Keep doing what you're doing, you Burks, which, you know, if you know about rhyming slang, that's a terrible,
but it's
offensive
not.
word. We're all having a lovely time listening to you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Now, we're going to have a guest now, a lady who is a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a highly experienced TV and radio presenter. I'm looking at a photograph of her. She's a fine-looking human being. She's got an engaging style and manner. And hopefully she'll tell us, among other things...
What the hell's wrong with us?
what the hell is wrong with us? Please welcome to our radio show, Emma Kenny, our guest. Hello, Emma. Are you there?
Hi, I'm there. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. Emma, why did you ignore our overtures and previous calls?
Because I gave you the wrong number. I basically gave you my office number because obviously I work such long hours. I forgot that I'd actually be home on a Sunday,
Do you know,
basically.
we thought that it was because we're not good enough.
Well, no, you can deal with your own self-esteem issues there. It was a genuine mistake on my
thought it was
part.
because we're bad boys.
Don't eat a banana.
We want to know what's wrong with us.
In what capacity?
Well, all right, we'll start
Haven't you
off
heard
How long
the
did you
show?
got?
We'll start off like, oh, Emma Kenny. We'll start off like, what the hell was, like, when we go into a supermarket,
Yeah.
right, and you go all delirious and forget what you've come in there for, why is that, please, Emma Kenny?
2 levels, one you've not planned. So if you're a planner, then you won't go through that because you'll have a focus. But the other thing is, it's a bit like informal mindfulness. So you're somebody, I think, who's done things like yoga, which is formal mindfulness, and that's creating flow. So when you go into a supermarket, firstly, you tend to be either on your own or you're kind of concentrating on whatever the task ahead is. So your thoughts are brought back to the present, and that just means that you can kind of go off and wander around with your thoughts and have a little bit of peace time and me time. So actually, it's pretty helpful and healthy to
So you drift into a relaxed state. Is it a bit like
when... flow.
It's a state of flow. What athletes might call the zone. What about? Is it a similar thing in an elevator when people in an elevator go into a sort of a trance-like state and forget their floor? Because I heard Paul McKenna.
Part of it in an elevator, it depends on whether people are around you. If there are people around you, you tend to kind of retain consciousness and be kind of very present just because of the fact that you're feeling really awkward, that you're in a close space with people. But yeah, if you're in a lift and you're just kind of listening to the elevator music, then again you're being brought back to the present and you're getting a little bit of distraction at the same time. So those kind of experiences definitely change the way that you feel when you're in those, those environments, definitely.
So Emma Kenny, we're triggered into different states of consciousness by external stimuli. A supermarket sends triggers to us and it induces it's like a mandala. It's like a symbol, an external symbol that triggers a certain state of consciousness, the same as the elevator. Matthew Morgan, you got a question, ain't you, mate?
Yeah, we were just speaking earlier about how you can develop a sort of third eye and be aware of yourself externally whilst things are happening. What's that about?
Why don't you do the example? Tell Emma the example.
Well, when I'm looking after my children and I say something like, don't do that, you'll hurt yourself, I sort of hear myself saying it as a third entity.
Well, that's one of the reasons that you do that, although that sounds brilliant. That's like an astral projection idea. But the side of it on a science level is just that when you think, your thoughts are like hugely, hugely premature to what you actually say. So you've actually had the thought, you've developed the language, and you've actually imagined the saying it all within the instant, tiny, tiny, tiny milliseconds that occur before you've actually spoken. It's a little bit the same as when you're having a conversation. There are some brain scans that show now that if somebody is talking to you and asking you a question, when you actually pick it up scientifically on scans, they're answering the question before you've actually asked. So it's a little bit like being tuned into the radio. When you're not actually listening to the radio, then you turn it on and you can hear the song that you were thinking of. So some people would say that's coincidence, but actually there's a lot of study now gone into the fact that we are not telepathic in the context of, Star Trek, but certainly we have premeditated understanding of what somebody else is experiencing and saying it before they've actually said it.
I like you, Emma Kenny. You seem to be open to ideas that are outside.
Succinct answers.
They are succinct answers.
Not for both.
How long do you have to train to be a psychologist?
Well, it depends if I'm a psychiatrist, like you were saying earlier on. An extra 8 years after a medical degree, but I've not done that.
Have you done a medical degree?
No, I haven't. You were saying I was a psychiatrist, so I would have had to have done that. I'm a psychologist. I did my initial degree and then I did another 8 years in therapeutics, so mine's psychological therapy. So I concentrate on kind of more Jungian and EGAN and places like that.
So what you do, so it's not grounded in medicine, but more in the but you said you know a lot about Jungian psychiatry. Did you just say?
Yeah, psychology. More the dream analysis, more the whole context of how we operate, and more that side than I am Freud, for example. Although, obviously, both incredible practitioners and amazing leaders in their field, just a bit weird sometimes, I think.
What do you think about what Matt Morgan... Have you been listening to this radio show? Have you simply got better things to do with your life?
Oh, I've been painting windows.
That's not... That's the...
I'm
right,
trying to
listen.
sell my house. That's absolutely right.
Wax on, wax off, maybe some Miyagi type thing.
It's got to be... Don't paint the window. The whole point of a window, Emma, is that you can look out of it. If you paint it...
This is why I've not sold my house. This is the problem.
And there's the pink windows downstairs, and upstairs there's the blue windows. Now, Play School was a fine show when we were children, but you mustn't take it literally. You're in the house trying to flog it, and you're painting the windows.
Got a humble in the lounge.
You know about Play School, eh? I see.
Big Ted, Little Ted.
Big Ted, Little Ted, Humpty, Hamble, Jemima. Oh, they were a bunch.
I once saw Floella Benjamin and had a proper near panic attack just because I was completely in awe and I couldn't actually go
I loved Floella. And Floella Benjamin's got a food range, I think. And why is Floella the only person that's called Floella so far as we know?
She hasn't aged a day.
Yeah. Ain't she aged a day? Get her on! Floella.
Like this horrible artistic impression in her attic, without a doubt.
I tell you what, that's a reference to Dorian Bloody Gray there. That's a reference to literature by the great genius Wilde. Emma Kenny, why do you think these shows go all mental and chaotic? What do you think happens? When you're talking about a trigger such as a supermarket and how it can induce a particular state, what do you think happens to me, Matt G, and our coterie of pals and producers when we come into this environment? Why do you think it suddenly becomes often sort of like chaotic? That's why I asked you if you listen to shows, you could think of particular examples, but I'm sure you're aware of the fact that this show has sailed close to the wind many times. Even now, Mr. G is wearing a wearing a banana hat, like that's actually to stop people slipping on the floor. It uses the image of a banana, which is evocative of slipping. So what do you think happens in this room? What happens to us? Why does it go so chaotic? Are we agents of chaos?
Because people who give each other permission to be who they are and give them that liberation will always get the kind of best impact and effect. So most people tend to pocket times where they can just be truly themselves. And the great thing about radio as well, just per se, is it isn't that kind of visual experience. So people aren't looking in, you're not thinking about the things that you ordinarily have to do and exhibit in normal life, which is the identity you have about your clothing and the way that you look. Actually, radio gives you something really special, which is that nuance of just the auditory experience. And when you're sharing that time with friends who just completely accept that your personality is as liberal and as crazy as it might be, and also feeds off your humour, then you're just in the perfect position to just be stress relieved and to enjoy the experience and just be free. And it's what everybody's trying to achieve.
Freedom.
So
it's freedom. It's about freedom. It's freedom of expression.
When we're free, it all goes
it's about
mad.
freedom
So
of
it
expression.
actually mental people.
Yeah, it's about permission for everybody else to do the same. That's the other thing about just the media, full stop, really. When people are engaged in an opportunity to just hear and then laugh and just have that freedom to express themselves and to be a bit daft, that's something that in Western civilization is needed more of, because it's the one thing that actually makes us feel really happy. There's a huge amount of seriousness in the Western philosophy, and it's not really good for us. So just allowing people to be childish and funny and intelligent and humorous and crazy all in the same context is something that's really great, and everybody should do more of it.
I love this.
That's
From
very
Emma.
So Emma, I mean, you're basically saying that, like, there's nothing wrong in us enjoying ourselves, feeling good about ourselves, and just accessing all the pleasures there are in life.
No, she's not saying that, G. What she's saying, that's freedom of flow. Now, Emma Kenny, you made a very good point. It's very petty. Put it in your bloody poem. Express yourself in there. Right, like, what I think, I thought it was very important, because in that James Baldwin documentary, I Am Not Your Negro, there's this bit where he goes, he's analysing white America. It's very beautiful. I do recommend this film. He goes, he talks over archive footage, actually, of like what looks like a middle-class white American couple in a supermarket. He says, what is this disjunct between the private American and the public American? It's like people don't know how to be who they are anymore. We've lost our freedom. Like that tyranny takes place primarily in your own consciousness, that there's a prohibition and not allowing yourself to be who you actually are. Like we are sort of policed by our own shame. Sure. When I think about my own childhood, I think that, in many cases inadvertently, my parents are fantastic and lovely, but like that sort of, I've grew up feeling deeply ashamed about numerous aspects of myself, and part of my personality, I think, is an attempt to explode the boundaries of personal shame.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of putting it, but it takes quite a lot of self-actualisation and self-efficacy to get to a point where you actually can own that, and a lot of that comes down to being able to acknowledge your troubles, and obviously your life has been one that's kind of had ups and downs, but has very much been triumph over adversity, and that kind of holds a mirror to yourself that you can't stop holding.
Matt just went... Because if you said my life's triumph over adversity, you can't have a life that's triumph over adversity. Matt wants my life to be a sort of a decrepit old crap heap.
But on a serious note, I think what you said about Western philosophy, full stop, and nothing against the society I've been brought up in, but if we're really honest and you look at just children per se, so you've got a child at the moment who's going to go through the system, so pretty much prior to them going to school, as in the educational system, the Western educational system, pretty much most kids are on the genius scale. So it takes about 4 years after going to school for about 8% of them to display that. So 92% of them have it bred out of them.
Oh, no.
You're taught how to be. Well, that's why Steiner and Montessori schools and schools that are a little bit more independent and individual are starting to really thrive.
Brilliant.
So what you're saying is true.
But they've got to be state level. They've got to be free for everybody.
But I think...
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you 100%. In fact, kinesthetic education would be joyful.
Don't you think, Emma, that form of education is deliberate to create citizens who behave in a certain way rather than free-thinking radicals?
Absolutely.
You're some sort of radical.
The whole premise of that, the idea of creating a society full of chaos makes people afraid, but actually chaos is
bloody awful. You don't have too much chaos. It's got to be managed, hasn't it, this chaos?
This is a little pocket.
Well, I mean
because all the actual technical
as in radical and free thought, which is what you're talking about. The idea of allowing people to have their own, assumptions and presumptions. I mean, when you work in therapy, you can't help but try to enable that in your clients. The whole premise of it is, you know more than you could ever imagine, but nobody has told you that yet. So my job is always about unlocking that potential. And in children, potentially, we do it the wrong way round. You know, they're full of it. They're absolutely incredibly full of creativity, uniqueness, and the ability to be divergent. And divergent is what we should all want to be. And then we set them down a trajectory, which is based on an education system that is taught by brilliant teachers who aren't given their own creativity to do what they'd really want to do to make kids thrive. So actually, it's all there, and there's not a lot that we need to change apart from to activate, like you said.
We've got to activate their free chaotic genius within them. Go on, Matthew.
Absolutely.
Russell,
and just not be afraid of it.
I think it's quite interesting what you're saying about, like, the joyousness and the freedom, but like Russell, you do touch your genitals and nipples a lot, especially when the show goes really mad and when you're I think
we're talking to Emma Kenny though. I've gone being serious in this bit.
It's in a sort of innocent way. It's not. I'm not saying that you're stimulating yourself, but like something is stimulating you, and that's what you go to, right? You do it, and that shows that you're actually free in those moments.
Free. It is about freedom. That is because
free. That's a good word.
Yes, free. I'm very free.
Not a sex pest.
I was just being free in the bar, scooting around, being all free in the canteen. No, but like what I'm saying, but I think you're right because like you prohibit yourself. Like sort of self-touch is not something you do for numerous social reasons. There are various protocols in place. So in this environment, I think, there's nothing wrong if I I'm touching myself, but it's not in a sexual way. It's just like I'm only here with my mates.
When you laugh, you do it.
I feel more conscious because there are young women here, and I'm aware of myself now as a man that's 42. So I think we better rein it in a little bit.
Get your leg off the desk, then.
My leg's going on the desk. Emma Kenny says I'm free to be whatever sort of pervert I may well be. Now we're meant to play a record, but let's only. 1 second, stay on the line if you would, Emma. 1 sec. That was Catfish and the Ballman, who I'm sure are really good. And if you enjoyed that, you might want to invest in
guaranteed to be public liability insurance quote for the same cover. Can your insurance do that? Search Direct Line public liability insurance. New customers only qualifying criteria apply. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
No,
the London
that's
Evening
enough out
Standard
of you.
Family Food Festival Night Market is the perfect outdoor setting for long summer evenings of food, music and fun.
It's a brand new food festival.
You've got the DJ over by the bar.
There's a fantastic array of foods and the cocktails are incredible.
There's like an outdoor cinema as well. It's just loads of food and loads of different types of food. It's a diverse community. It's a diverse
Don't panic about it. You might want these products.
Now in Kensington.
People have paid loads of money
Tickets
for
on
that.
sale now at londonfoodmonth.co.uk.
Sit back, relax, listen to a little Spandau Ballet, check your emails, have a little drink. Where are you? You're on a Virgin train.
Because then we can talk over it. Emma Kenny, psychiatrist, stay on the line. Why can't you, like, where is the thing?
Psychologist.
Time traveller's cow? No. Cows on a train. You may have got on the train at Euston, but you're heading to Hollywood. Literary genius. Virgin.
Artie Monkeys, do I want to know?
Ah, there we go. Is that the end? We killed them. Did you kill them?
No, you did it.
Well done. That was not. That was genuine chaos, Emma Kenny. All I wanted to do was play a little bit of a song. And then
this is what Emma's saying. That isn't really chaos. It seems chaotic because of what we're used to.
Yeah.
It's not chaotic, really. We're in a very managed context.
If anyone thought that was unprofessional, then you're a real square.
You may have come across as a bit of a square if you thought that was unprofessional. Now, I'm sure that there are sponsors of the show that may need their advert to be on at some point. In fact, just tell me their names, and I'm sure they're all fine products, and I'll heartily recommend them. Like, for one bit, was playing a bit of Spandau Ballet, for example. Emma, I think you should become a regular friend of the show, because I think you engaged well with us. Did she, Matthew?
I like the idea of that. Thank you very much.
I'd like to have a private session.
We want private sessions. Give Matt's always trying to get something free. Will you give Matt some free psychiatry?
I'll pay. I don't mind.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't want it because I already see a psychiatrist, as a matter of fact. I should be bloody clear. Okay, so thank you very much, Emma Kenny.
It's been a pleasure. Take care.
You've been brilliantly illuminating. We're going to call you again. Is that all right?
Oh, good. Speak soon. Take care, sweetheart. Bye.
She's trying to escape.
She's trying to get away.
She's not going fast enough. Oh, are you a friend of this show now? Oh, she's gone.
Yes.
What? Yes, actually, Russell.
Perfectly sane.
Thank you, Emma. That's so kind of you. And so you would say that I'm probably one of the sanest people you ever...
Do the Royal Variety.
I think I will, actually, Emma. Well, bye now. You better go. Well, that's what we call professionalism. At home is Neil, the producer, that sort of works for Radio X right now, real frantic. And Matt, their sort of head of this whole little department, he'll be having a little panic as well, because when it comes to the crunch, it's the adverts what people get wound up about. Now, remember we did a competition earlier. about saying, who was it that went, this never happened in my kingdom again? It was Indiana Jones, and the winner is Nick
It wasn't
from...
Indiana Jones.
And the Temple of he never said it. He was saying things like, Shorty, come with me. Oh, no, jump off the truck.
I hate snakes.
I never liked them. Snakes, they scare me. They're like a prehensile genital. So the composition winner is Nick from Reading. So, Nick, well done, mate.
Is that a
it's
boy
Nick
or
with
a
a C. We don't know. And does it matter, man?
It's a girl.
It's Nick
Well done, mate. You're sexist.
No, well, that's less sexist to say well done,
Do you
mate.
say mate to women? Because
sometimes I've started more.
Do, and I
didn't used to, but now I do.
I don't know if that's more equal or less.
It's more equal. When I was more a person that was switched on sex-wise because I was out in the world, like I was very gendered in my language. Nowadays, since I'm in a relationship and have a female child, I've really woken up to being more equal, and now everyone's a target.
You really do deserve awards, don't you?
Where are our Aaron Brockovich awards? Now, to summarise this show, which people are already calling radio, let's listen to Mr. G, Poet Laureate of the show, with this. Here he goes.
Okay, this poem's called The Keys to the Kingdom. We can't just yell at the lock unless we visualize the key. Otherwise, the etiquette of silence won't ever set us free. Surely the volume of our apology can boost immunity. A collection of common unity combines to form our vitamin C. So with whose voice shall we speak that's recommended for you and me? Do we recognize the cliff's edge or heed the sequence of beeps? Or perhaps there's nothing left to say. If our third eye has its way, shall we delve deep into our true selves or remain darling buds of May? Surely embracing the chaos holds the keys to freedom's chest. For this is us doing our best on Radio X.
That was good, G. What was the darling buds of May? Theresa May's talking about. And what were the darling buds? Nipsey whips. Okay.
Remember when they had that picture of her and she had her boobs quite prominently out?
That's quite enough from you, Mr. Morgan.
That would have been a good headline, that's all I'm saying.
It would have been. Ladies and gentlemen, that may have been our last ever radio show. If it is, I hope you enjoyed it. And now, goodbye. Listen to the podcast.
See you at the job centre.
See you at the job centre.
45's in the post.
Who be foolies? Here is a little guy called Glenn Advert with his sequel to his previous project, Advert 1. It's Advert 2, so just press that and it'll happen, will it? Here you go, darling. Enjoy that.
Direct Line guaranteed to beat any public liability insurance quote for the same cover. Can your insurance do that? Search Direct Line.